Go. What's up, everybody? This is the Road to JG3 Fitness Ironman podcast. I'm Jay. We got Tivo, Kyle, John, Lex, and Jason, the Barbarian. So, we're going to start with Kyle. Why Ironman? Why'd you sign up, man?
My why. I'll start. Number one, family, for my family. Number two, myself.
That's the first two things.
Number three is a big one for me. Proving to people that you can go through some shit in life and still come out to live a prosperous life. And last but not least, prove all the fucking haters wrong.
It's a fucking good intro, buddy. Good why.
Kind of the two things that
Yeah, that was a lot. Yeah, anyway. John, why Ironman 70.3?
Ironman 70.3 because it's halfway to my bucket list of doing a full Ironman. I'm a little ahead of schedule, but that's because of Joe P. We pushed this up a little bit for him. I just have to prove that I can do it.
Yeah, and for those of you listening that don't know who the fuck we are, Joe Pemberton's a very close friend of our gym's. He recently passed away because of brain cancer, and his goal was to get back to doing triathlons, and we basically made a pact to him. Well, it started with me, made a pact to him that I'd do an Ironman for him, or a triathlon at the time, and then one day me and John were talking, and it turned into me and John, and then as you'll hear, obviously there's 6 of us at this table now, so you'll hear a bunch more. Lex, why Ironman 70.3?
Well, it started with Jay giving me shit about not wanting to do it. So proving to Jay that I could do it first. But, obviously with Joe P, proving to myself that I can do things, proving to other people I can do things, that I'm strong enough. I'm not someone that can bench, 135. I'm not someone who can squat a ton, but I'm still capable of doing things, so.
Well, I think that's part of the cool thing about what we're doing here is we got a lot of various backgrounds, and we'll get into that here in a minute, but you don't have to be the strongest person in the world to do an Ironman. This ultimately boils down to how fucking hard are you willing to work. Anybody can, in my opinion, maybe I'm sounding like an arrogant fuckbag to actual triathletes, but I feel like if you give somebody enough time and they're willing to put in the work, you can pull off anything. Jason.
You were doing it, so I was like, I have to do it.
that's legit the reason.
Well, Jay's doing it, so the rest of the team's got to do it.
That's fucking brutal honesty right there.
I had to do it.
I actually saw today that it's close to a sellout. Anybody see that on Facebook today? It got tier 3 sold out, so there's only one more tier left before
I better get a hotel room before it sells.
we got campground set up already. Anyway, Jay, the reason I'm doing it, I already kind of touched base on it, is Joe was having a conversation with me about triathlons, and it was really about regrets and how he regretted kind of letting his fitness get away from him for so long, and then he started back at the gym and he started having fun, and I had never actually heard about the triathlon stuff, and then he just, out of the blue, when he had the brain cancer stuff popped up, all of a sudden he started talking about these triathlons he used to do, and just lit the fire. I was a competitive swimmer, so I knew I had that part down, but just wanted to do something for Joe. And then the last guy we have here is Tivo, which we're going to kind of touch base on why Tivo's still here but not going to be doing the Ironman with us. So why don't you touch base on that, buddy?
So I'll give my why on why I wanted to do the Ironman. First off, probably, honestly, the very first thing that popped in my head was Jay was like, "Hey, you want to do a triathlon?" Me being the crazy shit I am, I'm like, "Yeah, I'll do one. No big deal." And it's funny because it started right before the survival games that we did last summer. Mm-hmm. He was like, "If I'm going to be on your team, you have to do the swim," and I was like, there's no way I'm going to do that swim, especially because I didn't even know how to swim. Like, water, I was like, nope, that's a no-go for me. So then he was like, I'll teach you how to swim. I was like, fine, teach me how to swim. We went out to Lisa's Dad's Pond. We were out there, and I feel like this is kind of where it started because Joe P showed up. And
Yeah.
Joe P jumped in the
Yeah.
Joe P jumped in the water, and he started swimming. And Jay was like, "Joe P, what are you doing?" He's like, "I'm swimming." and then he was like, "You know what? I think I'm gonna do triathlon." And Jay was like, "You know what? That's a great idea." He's like, "We're gonna do a triathlon." And Jay looked at me and goes, "You want to do a triathlon?" I was like, "Yes, I want to do a triathlon." So that kind of like started like, all right, we're gonna start swimming and do a triathlon. But then life goals, life decisions came around, so I will be leaving in a month, heading into the Army. So there's my reason on why I won't be joining an Ironman, but doesn't mean I'm not gonna eventually do one.
Yeah.
Legitimate reason.
Yeah, but for those of you listening that think Tivo bitched out, obviously he did. The Army was a much easier decision than Ironman 70.3. So
I don't think there's as much swimming.
yes,
Yeah.
he will be he'll be with us in spirit for sure.
Won't he be able to do it if he comes back on 30-day leave?
No. Well, maybe. I don't know. Jason's always throwing the fucking crazy ideas out there. But,
9 weeks plus 30 days home recruiting.
Yeah. That's possible.
We'll see what I
Yeah,
got.
we'll see what he's gonna be in
Don't
good.
bitch
He's
out.
gonna be in good shape. But anyway, that's
Good shape.
that story actually leads into the biggest fear going in. The basis of this first episode was kind of going to be what's your biggest fear about this, and back to the survival games. One of the reasons we told Tivo he had to swim, if you remember, Kyle, was we had a guy that pulled out because of a back injury, and my team kind of fell apart, so they asked me to do it, and that was my only request was Tivo to have to swim. And I'd heard stories of how fucking afraid he was of the water, and it wasn't that first time I swam with him at Lisa's Pond. We actually went on a JG3 camping trip in Labor Day. We got to figure out how to do a little picture-in-picture in the video for this. But we actually have a video of Tivo almost fucking drowning. We did a workout swimming, and all of a sudden I popped my head up, and my wife Debbie is just fucking screaming at me. She's like, "Jay, get Tivo!" And I'm like, "The fuck is wrong with Tivo?" And I turn around, and Corey Lunsford and Lisa are on either side of Tivo. He's got his hands on their back, like pushing them underwater, and his eyes are like this. You can see through goggles, and for those of you who've never seen people wear goggles, you don't see people's eyes in goggles. You could fucking see Tivo's eyes. They were huge, and it just had this fear of get me out of this water. And my biggest fear as a guy who kind of roped everybody into doing this was, the fuck am I going to do if none of these guys figure out how to face that fear? Or say Tivo signed up and we're not going to have to find that, but you're going to hear from all these people here in the room. A lot of them don't have swimming background. I myself don't have a biking background, but at least I don't have to overcome like fear of fucking drowning, right? So that was my biggest fear, is Tivo's dumbass fucking drowning, training for this stuff. And then Jason signs up, and I'm like, this motherfucker can't even do a workout without fucking it up. How is
This guy's just following directions.
He's gonna be at the rules meeting going, what fucking swim?
Did anyone?
I
Did
can't get naked between transitions.
Wait, I gotta keep my clothes on?
he's gonna show up. He's like, you gotta bring your own running shoes.
Where's my bike?
Take John's bike. What the fuck?
I mean, caveman rules. We do have two cavemen sitting here. We got Kyle and Jason sitting here, but they would be the type to just go, wait, you can grab whatever fucking bike you want, can't you? Yeah,
Go.
sure.
That's mine.
That's fine.
Me caveman, me fight for bike.
You fight me for this bike? What are we doing?
Just start pushing people under. I wanted that bike.
But yeah, so second biggest fear for me was overconfidence. Like I kind of talked about it earlier, but I'm one of those people that truly believes if you have enough time, and me and John have had this argument. We had it in front of Lex Sunday after we ran. I'm one of those people, if you have enough time, you can fucking pull off anything. So John's like, this is halfway to my goal of a full Ironman. So I'm like, that's fine. Let's just do it next year. And John's like, what are you talking about? We need 2 years for that. I'm like, fuck that. A year is plenty of time. And I can tell you, yeah, and John's a preparer. Not that I don't prepare, but I remember one of the worst experiences of my life was it's actually hanging up there. First marathon I ever did, or the only marathon I ever did, October 20th, 2013. I did not prepare properly
Did
for
you do
it.
Columbus?
No, that's
Oh,
Detroit, Windsor.
that's right. Okay, sorry.
That's how you see the Canadian flag there, Lex.
Windsor.
Oh, whatever.
Yeah.
It says Detroit on the medal.
Yeah, so-
Think I can read that part right?
yeah.
No.
I mean, it's got the fucking clover thing.
Yeah, fuck them.
So, anyway, I went from couch to trying to do a marathon in 16 weeks. And I thought,
Easy. Easy.
Yeah, Tivo should
Did
follow.
2 weeks? Did you?
Tivo did it.
Give me 9 days. We're running a marathon.
It's not on.
I
But,
want to be your surprise guest.
oh, we got a surprise guest. Carrie Miley stepping
You can
into
give
the
your
frame
why.
here. You can give your why. Hey, Ironman's almost sold out, so you
Mine
have
look like spaceships.
they're microphones. They're
They
microphones.
look
So
like alien crafts.
they are alien crafts. They just make lots of noise when you speak into them.
Like Brody.
But
Would you
go
speak
ahead,
into
talk
Brody?
into it real quick.
Say hi, Jordan.
Hi.
This intermission is brought to you by Verizon Wireless.
It's brought to you by CR Juices.
No, don't-
Don't pull that.
Mess with that
Located in
stuff.
Fremont,
Say your
Ohio,
name.
2140 Outer
Brody.
That is one of the kids at our gym, Brody, who thinks he has to talk directly into the microphone.
How'd you run?
Yeah, I didn't.
We're recording a podcast right
I
now.
thought you said it's intermission.
No.
No, I was joking.
Hello?
He's on the phone. Or on the,
So how'd your run go? Did you like your run?
I beat them.
You beat them?
Of course you did.
naturally.
I didn't tell him to stop.
Hello.
Brody, put it back. I want to see our juices.
The other sponsor, actually, we don't have any fucking sponsors. The
So the
East
Dairy
Side.
Queen?
Sure.
You're going to the Dairy Queen?
No, not the fake one on the website.
See ya.
Bye.
Peace. Bye, bud.
All right, so overconfidence was my big fear. Obviously, as I talked about, I was a Division I college swimmer, so the swim was not really a concern, or isn't a concern for me. But I read Rich Roll's book, and I highly recommend it to anybody that gets a chance to read it. But is this mic working still? Yeah. If you get a chance to read it, he was a college swimmer at Stanford, much more decorated swimmer than I was, but he talked about his first Ironman 70.3. He got out of the water from the swim like top 5 and immediately flipped the switch in his brain, and the competitive side came out, and he's like, I'm fucking sprinting this bike and I can win this thing. And he got off the bike and fucking passed out, started vomiting everywhere. I'm paraphrasing, that might not be the full story, but that's something that I'm worried about, is going out like a psychopath on the bike after a swim because I'm in quote unquote contention, when in reality I need to be really smart on the bike to get through the run, because I remember October 20th, 2013 really well, and the end of that run is not going to feel good no matter how. I mean, I hope I'm fucking wrong, and I hope we prepare a lot better, but I don't want to go into it overconfident. So, Kyle, biggest fear, bro?
Biggest fear, I'd have to go to swimming. It's definitely gonna take the most work. You never want to let people down, but I wouldn't say that's a fear, because preparation, if we prepare, we should be good. I don't think.
So you sure swimming's your biggest fear? Maybe it's anything else, like
Like your butthole problems?
I wasn't gonna say it.
That's what you're alluding to?
I don't think it's gonna get any worse than that.
No.
Well, now you got to kind of explain your butthole problems.
No,
You kept saying preparation. I was like, 8?
Now we're good. We can move on.
No, definitely the swimming, but I just gotta work on it.
I think time management is going to be something that you
Yeah, that's
definitely got to worry about.
definitely
You
different.
fucking sprint every run.
Definitely different. No.
Yes.
I don't even think that's the issue. It's just when you get busy, and this is a huge time commitment.
Yeah.
Obviously, when we talk about that, and Kyle's got his girlfriend's got a 1-year-old that Kyle, basically raises. So having all that going on, and how old's Autumn? 6. So having, even though my kids are 9 and 7, going to be 8 the day before Ironman, it's a little different. That age versus 6 and 1 are totally
Yeah.
a little bit more
Waking
hands-on.
up in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
It's definitely.
And when you got, say, July 14th for our training, and you got a fucking 6, 7, 8 hour day ahead of you, and you don't have the rest you want, that could go. I mean, that could be amazingly difficult. Or say you do have the it's not even the time to actually train. It's the rest beforehand. Let's say you only get 4 hours sleep the day before that. That's going to make for a real long training session. You know what I mean?
For sure. Yeah.
He's like, thanks for fucking shitting on my birthday.
No, this is another fucking obstacle to overcome.
Yeah.
Bring it on.
Adapt and execute.
They say we got to look up these statistics because I'm probably going to say a bunch of shit that's inaccurate, but I know.
Do your research beforehand.
I don't fuck off. I don't research. That's your job. You're the fucking IT guy. But what I don't know the stat, but I know when we were running the full marathon, there was 3 of us that trained, and the statistics were for every 5 people that sign up for something, like 2 of them won't actually complete
How the
it.
fuck would you even look that up? I'm trying to right now.
Oh my.
Put statistics of people completing Ironman.
Me, Ken, man, me research.
Me, Google phone, not know how to work.
Oh, wait, don't wear to buy goggles.
No.
But yeah, I mean, statistically speaking, there's going to be 5 of us that are actually signed up now that Tivo's going into the Army. Statistics are against all 5 of us meeting that ultimate goal. And maybe that's part of my why.
Jesus, now that's my biggest
No,
fear.
no, thanks, fucker.
I wasn't even thinking about that.
But
Gotta let it be fuel.
But I think that's why it's so interesting, and that's why the 6 of us are at this table talking. Is we're not the type to think like that. We're the type to go, fuck, I made a commitment, and I'm gonna fucking do it. Like, I don't care what it takes to get past that. I'm gonna find a way, barring I blow my fucking knee out.
That's the world.
Fuck that. If you blow one out, you still got another.
Right.
It's 0.01% of people that sign up actually finish an Ironman.
Whoa.
That's out of the world, though.
That's out of the world.
That's like full Ironman.
700,000 people, so 7.3 billion people, or 1.0%.
No, that's how
That's-
many in the world, not how many sign up.
But that's around
There's 50,000 people.
that finish a full Ironman a year out of 700,000 people.
Yeah, so
Oh,
it's
okay,
700,000 people sign up,
Okay, gotcha.
and
That's one.
They going hard.
50,000 people finish it.
Oh, dude.
That's a very small number. Fuck, now my fear just.
That's a full. We're
Yeah.
focusing on the half right now. So.
But anyway, yeah, that's crazy. John, what's your biggest fear, buddy?
Biggest fear, just the body holding up for it. It's very, very physically demanding, and it takes a toll on you.
Yeah.
Mentally, I'm not worried about. I think mentally,
It's
I
trying to
have
bring
it
this
together
up.
enough that I'll get myself through it. It's just, I have a very physically demanding job,
Mhm.
and training at least 30 hours a week for this. That's 70 hours a week of physical labor that you have to adapt to, you have to get used to. So it's just a matter of holding up and being ready come race day.
Yeah, I mean I think that's the interesting thing is nobody here is a paid athlete. Nobody here does this for a living. We all got full-time jobs. We all have different schedules and things like that. So to kind of go along with what John just said, one of my fears is nutrition. Like that's all. I mean, 1.2 mile swim. You're probably not gonna have. You're gonna eat before. You're gonna be smart. I'm assuming everyone's gonna eat before.
No, I was planning on doing it without any food
Yeah,
at all.
yeah, I'm gonna not eat the whole day.
I mean, that's what I would do. Honestly.
Yeah,
I'd just be like, yeah, we're just go.
yeah.
Tivo's
Okay.
gonna show up late and
But I mean, exactly.
That's pretty much me in the marathon. Showed up late. I was like, let's do it.
But
I'll catch up.
Yeah.
exactly. But
Still be my time.
that's a legit thing, though. How many people you're gonna have some nerves the day of the race? No matter how prepared you are, you're gonna have nerves, and that sometimes screws with your ability to eat.
Throw up rapid support.
Yeah.
Inject fluids in you.
But in that transition to bike, how much food do you intake, or on that bike, me and John were kind of talking about labeling your water bottles and labeling and setting up your food intake. That's something
They
that.
got those little tubes.
Yeah, that's not going to be
Okay.
Yeah, see, this- yeah. But
Caveman need nutrition.
We'll just get something on the side of the road. Just grab something.
he's gonna pull over, kill a rabbit. Go get-
Yeah, we're just gonna grab a rabbit, just
Drive
drive
through all the way.
But-
Can I get a number 5?
But we have 4.5 months to figure out what nutrition works for you, what nutrition doesn't work for you. And you have to be disciplined enough to maintain that.
Yeah, I mean, you're.
Come race day, you don't wanna try something new.
No, this is.
You want to know what is gonna get you through.
You don't want the poops on the course.
What I-
Feels like that example also.
You're the only one.
Every time
I
someone
think
says
that's
something,
everybody's
Lex is like,
Alex
oh
is
my
like,
god.
Shit, I never
Oh, shit, I
fucking
didn't
thought of
think
it.
of that. Oh, God.
Don't be that guy.
She ain't got
But it's not just the nutrition aspect. It's how that affects your cramping level, your hydration levels. Like, it's not just the food enough to power your body. It's taking salt tablets, beets, things like that help not just with your endurance, but actually, like, you don't want to be 2 miles into that run, or worse yet, be on the biking portion and your quads are starting to lock up and your calves are cramped or you're having foot cramps, because once you're in the middle of that race, there's no catching up. So it's not the day of the race so much that I'm worried about that nutrition aspect. It's the 2 months prior. We're going to have to be on basically from May through July 28th when we actually do this run, or this swim bike
I need
run.
no pizza.
No, I'm not.
Okay.
It's not necessarily that, but it's figuring out each.
Pizza has lots of carbs.
Yeah,
Shit.
carbs are good. They're just probably not the best carbs, but understanding how that nutrition and how the body's going to hold up with that stuff, because, you know, frankly, the after race nutrition's just as important, because our first instinct's going to be, let's go have a fucking beer.
That's not my first instinct.
Yeah, Tivo.
That's his first
I know his first instinct.
I mean, are you not supposed to have a beer ready?
I mean,
Someone have a bottle of tequila ready. That's
yeah,
all I
I
need.
mean,
That's
But-
got water in it,
but-
right?
It's got water in it.
staying moving and not just sitting down, and, you know, I know we're going to be at a campground, and going back and not wanting to fall into those traps of, hey, I don't want to feel like shit for the next couple of days. Most likely going to feel like shit anyway, but
Feel less like shit.
yeah, feel less like shit, and
That recovery sucks.
and be able to sleep that night and not feel like absolute garbage. And that's where, you know, we don't have a lot of experience with this, so I wrote a much different program than I think most people that are doing an Ironman 70.3 would look at. But before we get into that, Lex, biggest fear besides all the shit that we
All
just
the-
scared the hell out of you
yeah,
about.
all this shit. Time management right now is kind of difficult just because I have a busy schedule. So the next 2 months are rough. But I would say the swim at first was my biggest fear, but since I've kind of figured out how to swim and not drown, that's been pretty cool.
Hold on a second. Let's take a small time out, because John was there this day. I think it was me, John, Tivo, and Lex.
Yes.
We went and swam for. So we asked Lex when she signed up. We said,
Can you swim?
I asked her point blank, "Can you swim?" And I think she said, "I tread water once," or some
I
shit
did
like
not
that.
say it once. You keep saying it
Yeah,
was once.
but it was some bullshit like, "I can tread water," or
Yeah.
something like that alludes to, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing.
Well, I don't.
And then she jumped in the pool, and what happened, Tivo?
She beat me.
She beat you.
Which really isn't that hard to do.
She
Oh yeah, that's very true.
she pretty much outswam everybody,
She blew past both me and Tivo.
and looked like she'd been swimming her
With
entire
better
life.
form.
Yeah, it was like picture perfect
I'm
form.
so
And
in water. She's
she's
like splashing on top of me.
she swam underwater, grabbed Tivo's leg, pulled him under, and said, "You're mine now, bitch."
It is lame.
Time to go to sleep.
That was really creepy what you did for us right there.
Yeah,
No.
but yeah, so
But-
so this whole fear of not being able to swim,
Yeah.
I think was.
Well, it was the fear of just of drowning, because when I started,
Yeah.
it was the like I can go 25 and I'm good
Yeah.
and take a break. But then I started to try to do 50, and I'd get halfway back,
Yeah.
and I'd be like, oh shit, I'm dying.
You start
Like
thinking about
I'm
that 25
I'm not
times,
able to
84
breathe.
times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not breathing. I'm basically chugging chlorine water, and thought that was how it was gonna be ending for me.
I think that's the interesting.
This is
Yeah,
how I die.
this is it. This is it right here. But I think that's what's interesting is from the outside looking in. Me and Jason had this conversation yesterday. I was doing a 4x6 bench press at 195, and in my head, it looked and felt like shit, like absolute garbage. And Jason's like, I think we need to add 10 pounds. You're making that look too easy. And I'm sitting here in the back of my mind. I'm like, that's kind of what you're experiencing
Yeah.
right here. Is you're going, hey, my fear was drowning and not being good at swimming. And our first experience watching you is you jump in and fucking take off like a bat out of hell. And I think John's exact words was, "This is fucking bullshit."
Yeah. Just want to be good at it.
Well, here's the thing: is you all three were watching me swim.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh shit, like, don't look
this
stupid.
has to be good.
This has to look good.
Right.
Yeah.
I believe my words were, she is so full of shit.
That's what it was. That's what it was.
Well, whatever.
Because,
but, yeah.
but yeah.
And then what was my other fear? Not finishing.
And was there any reason in your head that you thought you wouldn't be able to finish? Or
Like, just, like, if it's too hot or something. Like, I mean, we haven't trained when it's warm yet, so that's a whole different thing, like, weather-wise. But, what if I pushed myself too hard and then I wasn't able to get through? Or what if I didn't get the swim? I was worried about being,
Time
DNF
capped,
and time capped at the swim. And I did all this work done for nothing. And then how would I bounce back from that?
Sign up for next year.
Yeah, but I think that's one of the interesting things that I think you'll find on this podcast, and I don't give a fuck if anybody listens to it or not, just for the six of us here, is there's a reason that the six of us are sitting at this table is because that fear doesn't cripple you.
Yeah.
It makes you wake up at 4:45 in the morning and shoot your little Instagram video that says,
Shut
I
the fuck
fucking
up.
I got this, right? But
Well, then, like, keeping up with you guys, too. I didn't
Yeah.
think I would be able to keep up.
Yeah, we don't have to worry about that.
yeah,
Now we're all trying to keep up with her.
yeah.
Well,
So
I'm the hammer.
Exactly. Sometimes you're the hammer, sometimes you're the nail. Which brings us to Jason.
Who is
What-
obviously the nail.
What is your biggest fear?
Damn.
What's your biggest fear besides Lex ruining your confidence?
Not finishing. That'd be the worst because you tell people that you're doing it and you're gonna finish, and then you see people. Could you imagine just trying to tell them like, "Oh, I failed"?
But do you think that like anybody would actually give a fuck? Like, I mean, I don't mean that like rudely. But
I don't think
how
they
many
would
people do you
care.
think are actually going to follow? Like, I know, for me personally, internally, this is my world right now. Like, I'm so consumed in it. And there's times I'm talking to Debbie and she's like, I don't fucking care.
It's still the fact of telling people you're gonna do something and you don't make it or you don't do it.
Yeah.
That's
I had the exact opposite reaction because I realized the worst thing that can happen is you don't finish.
Yeah, see, like, I wish I had that.
You
But
just-
that's
you
where
walk
it-
out,
yeah.
okay, I recover, what went wrong, sign up for next year, go back. That absolute worst thing that happens is you don't finish. Who the fuck cares?
I think that's why having John at the table is so huge for this group.
This is why I
crazy.
miss
There are
swimming with John.
so many bigger problems in life. Who gives a shit?
I don't know. I think it's a win you need to have.
You learn more from failure.
I can tell you, I mean, we got
That means I'm really
we got medals everywhere. I don't remember half of this shit.
The other thing is like chafing.
There it is. There's hey,
That is
that
a real
shit is real. We will, yeah. You
Because I'm like, I got some body glide stuff. I'm like, do I need this? You use the powder. what
fucking
the
just
fuck?
put everything on. Just
douse
bathe
your
in
body.
bathe in A&D that morning. That's pretty much what I'm doing.
I was just thinking about, man, nobody ever brings that up. Like,
Here's my question. This is gonna be a stupid fucking question, but do you lube up after the swim or before? Who the fuck chafes during the swim?
I
You're already
think
in
body
water.
glide is good before.
I think, yeah, I
Is
think
it?
it's
For the
fine.
whole
Yeah.
thing.
like
I
my
mean,
big
you're
ass head
sweating,
rubs
like,
on
if
my
you're a
shoulder.
dude.
Like I get marks right
Yeah,
here.
no, I actually had it running the other day. I chafed in my lats, and I was like, what the fuck?
Worse is chafing on the nips.
Oh yeah, for sure. And we gotta wear a fucking shirt. We have to wear a
That's a
shirt the
real
whole time. You know
I
that?
think about, like,
Yeah,
Andy from
that's
the
gonna be-
office.
Oh yeah.
I'm just gonna put
Oh,
band-aids over the nips.
I mean,
Seriously,
I've never seen. Actually, that's a lie. I've seen you take off your shirt. I don't think I've ever seen you take off your shirt. Me and you in the summer very rarely wear shirts, and the fact that you have to wear a shirt the entire time. That's
why we get ones that zip down.
yeah. I'm gonna. What's up?
Chest hairs flapping.
Yeah. Some of us don't have chest hairs.
You
bro.
better figure out the chafing
I
problem now.
That's what I'm. I don't want that to happen.
Jay's balls blood.
And my balls did bleed. What, 2 weeks ago? Was that
Yeah.
2 weeks ago?
For the
Yeah,
run.
We did the
The-
11, or when we did
yeah,
the
the 9 minute or the 9 mile run
Yeah.
we did was fucking nuts. Which yeah, it's fucking nuts. Yeah. Some of us, I don't know who all's doing the Glass City. Some of us
I
have
think
a.
I'm going to. I just haven't signed up.
When is it?
So it's April 28th.
I'll be gone.
Yeah, so a couple of us are doing a half marathon. So we're kind of ramping up the run at a disproportionate pace than say the swims or the bikes right now. We'll circle back after that. So, but yeah, you should figure out the chafing thing while you're. My biggest fear is I've never actually seen you show up for one of our runs, our bikes, or our swim.
It's because I work the oddball schedule. I'm finally normal.
He's always like, yeah, fuck it. And now, what did he do Sunday,
He
Jeff?
planned our run for a Sunday, but didn't come.
I was at work.
Like,
What the fuck?
that's the fucked up shit. He's like,
What was the phrase he used? I'm a whore for money.
Yes.
Give me overtime, I'll take it.
Yes.
but he's got the best bike out of us because he's a whore for money.
Yeah,
I
that's
need to be a
true.
whore for money.
Oh, actually, I think Kyle's got the best bike. Kyle got the honor of riding Joe's bike for the Ironman. When he was still with us, we were telling him that we were going to have something on us of Joe's for the Ironman. And when he passed, Carrie asked us if one of us would use his bike, and Kyle got that honor. So Kyle's got a pretty fucking good bike.
Very grateful.
So.
Got a service today. Should be picking it
Oh,
up.
did you get service today? That's
Service
what's up.
today, so.
That's
a
a
size to you.
They're gonna do a basic size Monday. So
Yeah.
After they get everything done and whatnot. So.
That's another fear that I don't think I've verbalized yet. Is I don't know shit about bikes. Like if that
How do you
fucking
fix
tire,
how do you fix a
if
bike?
that tire blows, I'm fucked.
The lady-
See, I didn't think about that.
Yeah,
There's
like-
a little pouch on the back. The lady pulled it off. and
Yeah,
showed
there's a
everything.
spare
There's
tire in
fucking CO2 cartridges and shit. Like that's.
Well, that's
how
probably
you
for a
work
quick
tire.
fucking.
Well, yeah, in the race you have to change your own tire.
Yeah.
Yeah, like little
Training, you can use a bike
flanges
pump.
or whatever. Yeah.
Racing,
Like, there's all
you
kinds of
want to
shit.
know how to use that CO2.
It's a flat pack. That's what they call that. It goes on your seat. Flat pack.
That's the thing I didn't think about.
They say like keep money in it if you need to.
I still need a
You
helmet,
just need to buy
clip-ons.
something or-
Oh, I
Yeah,
still need a helmet. I still need everything.
yeah. I'm gonna.
I'm fucked financially.
My yeah.
Club Rogers tire. So.
So, Raj.
Lex is gonna be stripping, or you can sponsor her at the
Please
GoFundMe
sponsor
page.
me. GoFundMe / Lex doesn't want to strip.
/ sexy Lexi.
You know, I got called that when I was in elementary school, and I was like scarred for life, and that's why I hate the word, like the name Lexi now.
Really?
Oh, I absolutely hate it.
That's.
Joe actually called me that
Did he?
during when Tivo and I were doing our conference stat.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
like, who the fuck is this guy who keeps calling me Lexi? Because I didn't turn around. And I'm like,
She's getting
fuck
back.
off! Like,
she turned around. She's like, yeah, never mind.
I was like, oh, okay, never mind, it's fine.
Yeah.
Joe, you call me whatever you want.
Yeah.
Yeah. So changing a bike tire is something that I've never clipped on. I know John just had his first clip-in experience last week, and
It's different.
yeah. Kyle got the shoes and all, and we're like trying to figure out how to clip them in, and he's like, none of us could fucking figure
I
it
can
out.
show you that now.
Yeah.
I don't even know what clip-in pedals look like.
I did. True story. I've read Rich Roll's book. I've read a bunch of like books before signing up for this Ironman. I never even knew there was a thing as clip-on. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Clip-on shoes? Like, what do you mean special pedals? Like, what's so fucking hard about a bike pedal? Like, that's legit how little information I had on the biking aspect.
Don't worry, it's only 56 miles.
Yeah. Everybody keeps telling me though, like the girl at Spoke Life that I bought my bike off of was like, you guys are gonna be fine. Biking's easy. And I'm like, in the back of my mind, I'm like, if I have that attitude, I'm fucked. Because I already think the swim's not gonna be that bad. And then you go into biking, if you're like, oh, this isn't gonna be that bad. Next thing you know, you're sprinting the run because you're way behind pace. So
Biking's not bad if you train.
Yeah, how'd that work for you for the clip-ins?
It
he
wore
didn't
me
fall.
He didn't fall.
No, I never fell.
No, but I'm saying
But it
How do
wore
you
me out.
unclip?
How do you unclip?
twist sideways.
Oh, okay.
It gives you a lot more control though, right?
What?
You're working all the time. Instead of normal pedaling, you're pushing down, this leg's resting.
I think I like that idea.
This is constant.
The problem with
And
that.
we did a heavy leg workout Saturday morning, so I rode over here like 9 miles, did a heavy leg workout, and then rode home 9 miles. So I was a little beat by the time I got home.
The way it was described is that resting, when you clip in, it uses your hamstring, which obviously is going to be very helpful when you go to run, because if you don't clip in, biking is essentially all quads. If you ever got off the bike and your quads are just blown, and then you go to run and you're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
So this is supposed to help use your butt and glutes more, or your hamstring and glutes more.
And your
We're going to use our butt and our glutes. But it's supposed to help you use your full leg. That way when you get to the run, you're not already blown up quad-wise, because if you're already hurting and you still have a half marathon to go, that's... I hope to get to that point where I don't have to run if I don't want to. Like, I'm not going to give up and walk on purpose, but I hope to have 4.5 hours to fucking do the run. That way I can fucking crawl if I have to. Because actually, John told me this, and I don't know if you remember this. I've actually implemented in a lot of the stories I tell people when I'm coaching, or a lot of my internal.
That's good for a
My internal.
Should I shut it off now?
that voice in your head, when it starts telling you you're unable to do something. We were talking about tattoos one day, and he wanted to get one on his wrist that just said +1. And I was like, what the fuck does +1 mean? I'm like, is that like how many more kids you want? Like,
One more kid.
Yeah, I need one more kid.
But why don't you describe that, John? What did the +1 mean?
At the end of the day, or what everything always comes down to, especially workouts or long runs, anything that you're struggling with, you just need one more mile, one more step, one more rep if you're doing a workout. Just constantly focus on just one more, and just keep putting that one foot in front of the other until you're done. And just don't ever stop doing it. You always have one more in you than you think you do.
It kind
You
of
can always pull off one more.
Yeah, it kind of goes to, my mind went to two different places when you said that. First was the movie Creed, when Rocky's talking to
No spoilers.
Creed. Yeah, I'm not going to spoil
Just
it.
kidding.
But he
I
kept
just
talking
watched
about,
them both this weekend.
he kept talking about, what did he say? He said, one step, one punch, one round at a time.
Yes.
When you get so caught up in thinking of that big picture, what if I don't finish? In reality, if you just think one stroke at a time when you're swimming, one
They
pedal
were
at a
terrified
time.
when I was-
Yeah, one stroke at a time. Yeah. Of all the people here to turn it perverted, Lex went there.
I'm
I
surprised
gotta
you
keep
make
up.
that
I
comment.
gotta
Yeah,
keep
yeah,
up.
We did really well, guys.
Next week. But and then it went to Goggins. A lot of us have read that book or listened to that book now, and he always talks about that 40% rule. When you want to quit, you're only at 40% capacity. You still have 60% left in the tank, and that's kind of what you're talking about, John. Is you can always do one more step, and I find ever since me and him had that conversation, if you look at it as I just need to do one more rep. I just need to do one more rep. Next thing you know, it's kind of like Dory. Just keep swimming. Just keep swimming.
Oh,
you know.
I had to go there.
And I did. I
I
did.
had a good thing.
No tattoo. Now he's gonna get a tattoo of Dory instead of +1.
That ain't fun.
Oh, I want one.
But there you go.
I do that.
But yeah,
That could be part of your Ironman tattoo.
There we go.
Dory.
there you go. See, we
Dory
see.
for the swimming.
There you go. Tivo, biggest fear. Well, now that
Circling way back.
circling way back.
Yeah, so biggest fear is definitely failure, especially like with the swim, with me not being a good swimmer at all, just having that fear of like, okay, I got to jump in this water and I got to swim 1.2 miles, and just hearing the number, I'm just like, oh my gosh, like that's ridiculous, and it even just leads all the way back to just my competitive nature of I want to beat everyone else. So if I tell people, hey, I'm going to go do this, I better do it or I'm going to fail. I'm a failure in my own eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, there's a lot of things that I've done in my life where I'm just like, yeah, you failed at that, so now you got to live with that decision or live with that action or anything. I'm just like, what? Like, I don't know what to do with myself. I'm like, I don't know. So that was kind of like the big thing. I was like, if I don't finish this Ironman, what am I gonna do? But now that I'm not doing it, I'm like, I'm itching to figure out what am I gonna be able to do this now, because I still want to finish it, because I told people, hey, I'm gonna do it. And that, I think that also leads into like me going into the Army. I'm like, I've told people I'm gonna go into the Army. Like, I better excel at this, or I'm gonna be pissed at myself. Like, this is something I want to do for myself to get better in life. And it's like, okay, we're gonna do this. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, I think that's one of the ways you combat the fear is it's got to be fun. Like, if you're stressing day in and day out with what happens if I fail, it becomes a negative. You know, the entire build up to the event is going to be negative. And I think one of the first runs you came on, Kyle, we were talking about
His longest run.
his longest run ever was his first run. But we were talking about, I think it was just the three of us were running together because John blew us away that day. And we were talking about the journey's actually the event. Like, the Ironman itself that's not what you're going to remember about. Yeah, there's going to be shit that goes on that you'll remember and whatnot, but what's going to end up being basically a year-long lead-up for some of us is what you're going to remember about this event. When I look at that medal, I don't fucking think about anything but the pain of that event. My memories are of the 16 weeks of training together, and there's going to be a lot of times where we spend, 5, 6, 7, 8 hour days together, and we're
It's like, I already hate you assholes enough.
yeah, but that's what you're gonna remember. The journey is the destination, so to speak, and then and you can already see with how John was talking, he's already got another journey on top of that. So it's like, this is just like a pit stop. So as we sit there, and one of the reasons we want to document this with a podcast and some other things is you're going to want to look back and remember these moments. I mean, me and Lex had a conversation. I gave her shit about her little Instagram videos, but
You liked them, actually. That's what
I
you said
did.
first.
I did.
Don't
I do like them
The
because
person next to me is gonna judge me, but
yeah. But we
You
all
did.
watched them,
People
right?
don't.
yeah,
We all
it's a good ass video.
we all watch them because you know what? She's going to look back, and in 4 years, she's going to remember the insecurities, the fears, the anxieties, everything leading up to, and you're going to go, I'm a fucking badass because I did this. And it's not going to be the medal that makes you remember that. It's the fucking time where you're sitting in your car going, I don't want to do this. And you're having to pep talk yourself into a fucking screen to say, now if I throw this out on Instagram, I got to keep doing it, because if I don't do it again next week, people are like, what the fuck happened to this whole, I'm amazing Lex, getting up at 4:45, getting shit done.
4:30.
Yeah,
So
4:30.
get it right.
But I think if you're having fun and it's always hard to put yourself out there. I mean, I know Jason and John were like, this fucking podcast thing isn't my idea of fun.
But you forced us to do it.
Yeah, I did, because I think it's gonna be good for you, because once we put this out there and once we record it,
Stepping out of your comfort zone.
it's part of our journey forever. Like, when you go back, when you have grandkids, and I know John already does, there's our first pot shot at the old guy. You're going to be able to go back, and like when my son's 18, 20, and he's talking about challenges in his life, or my daughter, we can pull up these podcasts and go, hey, 10 years ago, this was my fears and my insecurities, and this is the group of us that banded together to get this done. And it's just, I think those memories are going to be, unless we all fucking bomb it, these memories
Way to be positive.
Delete.
these memories are going to be great. But real quick, I know we got about 17 minutes left. I was capping it at an hour per episode, but kind of talk about outside of John, none of us really had an endurance. I shouldn't say none of us had an endurance
I thought you were about to
background.
say, outside of John, none of us had a life. And
No, I was gonna say none of us really were working actively in the endurance field. Like, I have an endurance background back in high school and college when I was a distance swimmer, so that's like
20 years
natural
ago.
to me. But it was 20 years ago at this point, so my current level of fitness was these short, intense workouts where your heart rate goes through the roof, and trying to transition back into these runs, bikes, and swims, my mind's like, you gotta go, you gotta go, you gotta go. And that's the worst thing you can think about. And I was having some real shitty recovery days when we first started doing this, because I'm having to break that mindset. So why don't we talk real quick, if you want, like where were you at compared to now? Has there been any mental mind shifts in how you're attacking your week, how you're attacking your programming? Because we joked around right off the bat. I don't remember who I was having the conversation with. It might have been you, Jason, where I was like, John's actually the most prepared out of all of us.
Oh,
like
yeah.
everybody kept saying, Jay, you're prepared because you're a swimmer. And I'm like, the swim don't fucking matter. Like once you work hard enough that we all get through the swim, and we will, like John's used to running these long distances. I wasn't. I've never biked before. John was biking before we even.
Well, shit,
came
just the
up
other
with
day,
this
he said he biked 18 miles in between after a workout.
Yeah, he biked to and from the
Yeah.
workout just to work out, and I'm like, that would be my workout.
Exactly.
So
More than most people.
So it's interesting when you look at where you were at, and even watching yourself as you do workouts. Like workouts I've done 50 times already here at the gym, I'm now like not even coming close to those numbers, because as soon as my heart rate starts spiking, I'm naturally like, whoa, calm down. Like you don't want to get into that zone. Has anybody else experienced that kind of shift in mindset?
In the running, definitely.
Yeah, Kyle's always, for those of you who know Kyle, he's a caveman. And what did he say the other day? We were supposed to do 6 miles, and he's like, let's just fucking do 13 or 10 or something.
He's
bullshit
like,
like
Oh,
that.
yeah. Are we
He's like,
doing
let's do the
4
half.
right?
He's like, let's do a half marathon.
And then we do 8 or something like that. He's like, let's just do the full half. And I'm like, that's the mindset that we got to kind of get past, so to speak.
I get there. Eventually.
You have to learn to hold something in reserve.
Oh, you're supposed to do that?
Yeah.
Shit.
What about the 40% rule? What about
It's a grind.
blow by it?
Yeah.
You
But
don't want
Not a
if-
sprint,
if you-
it's a marathon.
you don't want to gas. You don't want
Speaking
to
about marathon.
gas.
if you blow through your 40% on the swim, you still have 60% to get through
You got
the.
6 hours to go.
Yeah, you're still in a whole
Yikes.
lot of issue there. And not everybody's Tivo that can do 2 weeks notice and go do a fucking marathon.
I mean, Tivo doesn't even do that.
You must have had a hell of a
And then just
playlist
all of a
that
sudden
day.
did it.
Yeah. What's that?
I said, you must have had a hell of a playlist that day.
Hell no, he said it was 4 shots of tequila and he fucking took off.
I actually stopped drinking before it.
Like 10 minutes before?
No, well,
2 weeks.
2 weeks. Yeah, 2 weeks. I didn't drink from New Year's on.
Is that because you lost your wallet and your ID?
Yes.
Yeah, I was gonna say it wasn't right.
Well, the main reason was when I did that comp with Carrie, she was like, "Hey, we have to do well in this, or I'm never working out with you again." And I was like, "Okay." And she goes, "You're not allowed to drink the week before." And I was like, "Well, that's bullshit." It's like, because obviously I was like drinking every weekend, and then
Blackout drinking, not just drinking, blackout
For the
drinking.
it wasn't
record,
that bad.
how old is Tivo, for the record?
I'm 24.
Okay.
So you're normal.
Right.
Yeah.
So then,
But how old are you, Lex?
26.
26.
I don't think that's normal.
So I didn't drink that whole week, and I did really well on one of the workouts, not 3 of the other 2 or whatever. And I felt good, and I was like, yeah, that's kind of what I need to do. And then the week before I left for the marathon, I called up Christina, and I was like, hey, I'm gonna go do a marathon. She was like, you're an idiot. I was like, yeah, you gotta tell me something I don't know. Like, just give me what I need to drink. And she was like, okay, you're gonna need to drink turmeric shots every meal, drink beet juice and stuff like that, just for recovery. And I was like, sounds good, let's do it. So we packed it up, put it in my suitcase, and shipped it over.
Didn't you have to pre-freeze it or some shit like that?
Oh,
too?
we were going to, but we ended up just not doing it. I just wrapped it in a whole bunch of stuff, and it worked out. I was so scared. I was gonna pick up my bag from a baggage claim, and it's just leaking everywhere. I was like, damn it!
Fucking everything's
Yeah.
red.
My mom's gonna be like, my clothes are in there.
They're gonna think that you snuck a body in your luggage.
Right.
Why don't you
But-
use dry ice and ship it?
We were gonna do that, but
He
I
did
didn't,
it.
I didn't have any time. I packed the day before, and we left.
You could overnight ship.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tivo's not the best prepared.
Next time. Yeah.
That's 'cause
Mic
he's
check the day
24.
before for this thing.
Mic check while we were here.
Yeah, we also might check while we're
Yeah,
here.
and-
Don't get it twisted. We're about 15 minutes behind schedule because of the mic check.
That's true. But yeah, then just like 9 days before, getting all that ready, not drinking, trying to get the body to feel right. And my main worry was recovery. I was like, I don't really mind destroying my body, destroying my legs. Sure, I'll do it, whatever. But I didn't want her to walk to the airport the next day and be able to get on my flight and go home. So that was my main concern. And luckily, so I didn't drink. And then once the race started, backstory, me and my sister are always late for everything. We were 15 minutes late to the marathon. We almost got time capped because we were so late. So we took off, and
Is that why your first half was so fast?
yeah,
Yeah, Jay texted us. He's like, "He's already done with the first half."
yeah, that's why
Okay.
the first half was under 2 hours, and I guess that's usually some people's goals to run a half marathon in under 2 hours.
Mine.
I've never
Mine,
done
asshole.
it. Yeah.
Right. I was running next to a guy, and he was like, "You think you're gonna finish?" And I was like, "I hope so." He goes, "Well, how long have you been running?" And I was like,
2 weeks.
About 30 minutes?
"Yeah." I was like, an hour and 58 minutes. And he goes, "Well, we're halfway done, so you're gonna finish." And I was like, "Well, thank God, because I'm tired already." I'm running 9-minute miles, and I'm just like, Jesus. And that's the point where I was like, it's not gonna be good. It's getting a little hot out, but powered through, finished.
I think that's one of the cool things about who you meet when you run a gym or fit fam, as we call it. Like, Christina's been a fucking lifesaver for me. We did, I did a stupid ass, I had a dumb idea. It was a good idea, but it was dumb at the same time. And I did Mission 24 last year, which was 24 straight hours of team hero workouts. And I basically just said, Christina, make me eat, make me get through this. And I did 24 hours of working out, ate whatever she handed me, drank whatever she handed me. And I couldn't believe it. I woke up the next day and I felt great. I actually took a week off of work expecting to feel like shit. The next day I'm loading like junk from my house into my truck, and my wife's like, how do you feel good? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I feel great. So having a resource like Christina, who takes what we do so seriously and wants us to succeed and gives you those beet juices and those turmeric and studies on our behalf how to make our bodies work, leaves the training to us, because ultimately, like, my expertise is not in nutrition. I don't know any of that shit. My expertise is not in Ironman. No,
I think I asked you about nutrition. You're like, here's this block program. That's all
I did too. I was like, I don't fucking know. I'll email you the shit they tell me to tell people. But it is. It's like we all have our own specialties and we all have our things that we're good at. Like, to me, and we'll probably have this next week episode, is the programming is like, when I'm writing poetry or things like that, like, that's what programming is to me. Like, understanding how it's going to work and everybody's different skill levels and making them all intertwine and make sense to where all of us at the table can have different backgrounds and still meet the ultimate goal. Like, that gets me excited to research and do all my homework. Someone goes, hey, what should I eat? I'm like, I don't fucking know. I had Taco Bell earlier. But that's why it's nice to have someone that I can turn to and go, all right. Like, so many people look to me for that programming aspect, and then they go, well, you're good at that, so maybe I should ask you about nutrition. And I'm not the
He
person
does not know
that
shit
about nutrition.
Jay, why should I
So-
take this supplement? I don't know.
I'm like,
Look it up.
someone told me to take it. Like, and I tried it and it worked for me. You should try it. If it doesn't work for you, throw it in the fucking garbage. I don't care. But you have to have the, like, we're going to find people on this journey that we don't even realize are going to be resources for us. It's March 13th right now. We're still, what, 4.5 months away from Ironman.
That's not that far away.
It's not that far away, but there's people that we haven't even met yet that are going to be integral in us finishing. I truly believe that, just because we're going to get out and people are going to see us swimming in open water with bikes hanging around, and then clipping into bikes and taking off for these crazy bike rides, and then jumping off that, putting on running shoes and go. And you're going to start talking to people and they're going to go, hey, what are you guys doing? We're like, I
That
don't
actually
know.
has already happened at the Y. there's like these two people that are really good at swim, and they would see John and I there a lot, and finally just look like, what are you guys training for? Like, what are you guys doing? Like, you're here all the time now, and you've never been here before.
Obviously training. For
You're
something.
obviously training for something because you don't know what the fuck you're
I
doing.
thought you were gonna bring up your best friend there.
And then we just started talking like, yeah, we're doing an Ironman, and then they were like, hey, maybe they started talking to each other like, hey, do you want to try to do this eventually? And I mean, I have no idea who they were or what their names are, and I haven't seen them in a couple weeks, but you know, just already seeing different people kind of wondering what the hell we're doing.
Yeah, and I think some of them, the hardest part is figuring out their true intentions. Like, there are some people that will give me advice, and I'm like, you clearly don't know what the fuck you're talking about. But there's other people you're like, do I not know what I'm talking about, or like, which one of us is being ignorant here? You
That
know?
advice thing, she could tell you on, because
Yeah.
she's got a good friend over there.
I do.
Yeah.
I have a couple good friends. Tivo met my one good friend.
Oh, did ya?
Last week.
Did I?
Was that in the morning?
Yeah. She kept telling me what to do.
Oh yeah, okay.
I'm
But
gonna
yeah.
go see her tomorrow for a cycling class.
She's a blonde chick?
Yeah, she's nice.
Oh yeah, she was the one that was sitting on a block like this
Yeah.
when I was trying
Yeah.
to swim, and I was like,
Yeah.
Jesus.
Lady.
Yeah.
Ma'am, can you put that away?
Stop.
You look up and it's right there, I'm like, oh my God.
Don't act like you've never seen a vagina before. You probably
Not like a
have.
65-year-old vagina.
When's the last
When
time
was
you
the last
saw
time you
vagina?
saw a vagina?
Like on my phone or like in person?
Alright guys, you got 4 minutes.
4 minutes, so we'll start wrapping this up.
That's
We're gonna try and do this. Yeah, it is the longest I've ever went. We're gonna try and do this probably every Wednesday, or at least once a week, whatever day works for all of us. Sometimes it's gonna be all of us in here. Obviously, every time it's gonna be hard to coordinate all of our schedules.
Because it's like herding cats.
Yes. Sometimes you're gonna get random interruptions like we had earlier today, because we're real people. None of us are sponsored athletes. None of us.
I'm a teacher.
Yeah.
Well, the interruption was a sponsored ad.
Yeah, the interruption was a sponsored athlete, but
Good for her.
yeah. Go to www.nosurrendergear.com.
Use the discount code Miley15, MAYLE15.
and you can save 15% off. And if you send us a picture of you in the gear, JG3fitness@gmail.com, you can give her 15 reps of whatever movement you want.
Gotta get that plug in.
But anyway, stay tuned for this. We'll probably release them once we get a few in the bag. We'll probably start releasing them every
Hopefully
Wednesday.
you're editing.
Yes.
No, we're not editing
No, we're not
any of
editing
this shit.
shit,
This
dude.
is the real
As
us.
soon as I hit
Fucking raw as
stop, I'm
fuck.
hitting upload.
Yes.
Seriously.
So stay tuned every Wednesday. We hope you enjoyed listening. I don't know how we're going to get this out there. iTunes, podcast, Stitches, whatever. Stitches?
Stitchers.
Stitchers
Oh, for your Android.
for your Android
Oh,
listening.
fucking
No, that's actually
The poor man's phone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll probably be on Spotify too.
Yeah, wherever we put these.
We're
if,
gonna do our best.
SoundCloud.
yeah, if I don't
If
know.
we're good enough to get on it.
Well,
Like, who are these
I mean,
assholes?
you can get on them for free, so it's just a matter of if anybody listens or not. But if you do listen and check it out, leave us comments, click subscribe. Is that what you gotta fucking say?
I think so.
Sure. All right.
Comment below.
Comment below if you want to hear something, or if you want to see Kyle wear like a Barney
Speedo.
Rubble fucking outfit next week. That works. We will try and have a video and audio version. Yes, John Biggs is a grandpa. That was not. That was not.
That is true story.
That is true. But anyway, thanks for listening. Thank you guys. I think this is more therapeutic for the 5 of us after he leaves, 6 of us now.
How are we going to do these when Tivo leaves?
He's going to teach me how to do all this
Oh,
shit.
bullshit.
So, hey,
Teach me too. So.
yeah, we're going to have to have
I think Lex would be able to do it better than you can.
I don't give a shit who does it. Someone's just going to make sure we upload them. So anyway, thank you very much. This is going to be the road to Ironman at JG3 Fitness.
You should probably tell them what Ironman we're doing.
Ironman 70.3 Ohio, July 28, 2019. Stay tuned for more. Thanks for listening, guys.